Hello, and in this video I am going to share how we are making our lime mortar for this current stone barn restoration job. We have got quite a unique lime mix on this one. We're using 3 different types of sand because we are totally trying to restore this barn to its former glory, so we really need to get the colour of the mortar spot on. So behind me here is a wall we got pointed yesterday, well, half it anyway. I'll be cracking on with the top half today, but you can sort of see it. Obviously it's got a couple more days till it gets to its true colour, but it's sort of like a traditional lime colour. It's just like an off-white. It's not as bright as normal lime. It is just slightly darker, and the lime we're using as well has got a slight darker tinge to it as well. So you can sort of see what it looks like after a day. It has got a long way to go, but like I say, we have got to really stick to a strict colour of mortar for this project. So anyway, let's crack on over to the mixing area and let's get one knocked up. So the mix on this job we're doing is a 3-2-1-2 mix. So that does sound quite complicated, but it's not. It's basically equates to a 3-to-1. So it'll be a 6-part sand to 2-part lime mix. We're doing 3 neutral building sand. It's called neutral building sand. It's got a slight yellow tinge to it, but it's not your traditional yellow building sand. 2 grit sand, which is similar colour, it's just got bits of grit in it, and 1 ginger sand. So it's really hot at the minute, so you can't really see it, but if I just scrape there, you can sort of see it's got a really nice strong ginger colour. And then the 2 lime. This is the lime we are using. Apparently it comes from France, because it's slightly darker than the sort of, I suppose you call it, English lime you normally get from any merchants, but and also apparently it's got a bit more play to it. So you know, as long as you're curing it properly, you've got about 3 days to it properly start setting. So obviously, if you know whatever desired finish you're going for your pointing, etc., you've got a bit of extra time as long as you're keeping the condition of the lime spot on. But yeah, like I say, it's just a 3.5 NHL hydraulic natural lime. All you need is a consistent measuring apparatus to get your portions. So if you actually cut down our mix, it's actually a 1.5 building sand, 1 grit, and then half a ginger. But because it's quite hard doing halves in a consistent tub, we always double it, just so we've always got the single number. So we're not doing half measures, we're just doing full measures. So that's why, you know, what I just said there equates to 3-2-1-2, if you know what I mean, instead of, you know, splitting it all in half, basically. Doesn't really matter what you use. We just use this because it sort of is working out for what we've been using a day when we're pointing. If we use a bigger bucket, we've always got a little bit left over. Whereas when we do a double mix and we use like a medium-sized bucket, it's just sort of getting us through the daylight. But you can literally use anything. If you only need a little bit, obviously use a little, you know, butter tub or something, you know what I mean? As long as whatever you're using for that mix is the exactly same size, it doesn't matter if you use, you know, a 50-litre drum and then just use, like I say, a butter tub, you know what I mean? As long as you're using the same thing for the same mix, it really doesn't matter. As long as it's equal amounts of each sand and lime in that mix, it will be fine. A spade just helps getting the sand, lime, etc. into Z bucket or measuring tub. Cheeky little trowel, that is just to level it off, as you'll see in a bit. So when you fill up your bucket, you can get level, because obviously you don't just want to spade in a load and have a massive pile, you know what I mean? You want equal amounts, so you always cut it off on the top so nothing changes. Give it a good bang, make sure there's no air pockets in there, just so you're always getting a lovely filled, no gap measurement. Some gloves and a mask, because you do not want to be getting that lime into your lungs, because you'll be coughing for days. I would advise a better mask, also goggles as well, but I just use sunglasses because I don't have any goggles. One of the biggest tools you need is a mixer. You can do it by hand, but lime really does need mixing well. I highly recommend a mixer because, yeah, if you're only doing a little bit, that's all fine. But if you're doing it all day, and obviously, you know, especially the quantity we actually normally have 2 or 3 mixers on site. But today I'm only on my own. So we're using this old girl. And also if you get an electric mixer as well, because, you know, sort of the average mixing time we do for lime is about 25 minutes. So, you know what I mean? a mixer on petrol going all day. You know, it's not good for the environment, and also it wouldn't be that good for your pocket. And some water. Righty, so let's get crack-a-lacking. I am going to start with the grit sand because I think it just helps really, especially because, you know, you don't always fully clean out the mixer, especially when you're doing numerous mixes throughout the day. And I just always find that starting with the grit just sort of helps clean off the mixer slightly. It's just, yeah, you just get stuck in your old ways, didn't you, after a while, do you know what I mean? So grab my bucket. So obviously make sure bucket's nice and clean. Grab my spade, same again. Obviously not very clean, but as long as it's dry, it doesn't matter. Hit it down, give it a little shake, just to bang out any lumps. Make sure you haven't got loads of lumps in your sand, but at the end of the day, when you go in all day, you just whack it in. Just sort of give it a bang down, just to get any air pockets or whatever. Fill it up. Fill it up. Righty, I give it a little bang, overfill it like that, and then there you go. So just so it's always flat and you've always got the same mix, you know what I mean, you've banged it down just so, you know, any lumps etc on it. You just want to get exact same amounts with every single bucket, because any slight change of colour can affect the mortar in the long run. Right, let's start this baby up. Oh, I only got it plugged in. So an extension lead and an electricity supply, if you're using an electric mixer, really does help. Right, let's try again. Yay! So this is my first grit going in. Really, you want to start your mix dry, but really you can't, if you're doing numerous amounts, you know, unless you bring about 100 towels with you or a pretty good hair dryer, your mix is always going to be damp. So you try and keep it as dry as possible, but like I say, as long as it is getting that even mixing, it doesn't matter. So that is one of my grits out of the two, because it's a 3-2-1 mix regards the sand. So I'm going to crack on and get another grit in there. Same again, nice and flat. Lovely, jubbly. It helps as well, whatever sort of mix you're doing. Obviously keep it simple if you can, just use one type of sand, and then you'll be doing a 3-1 or whatever ratio you want to do. If you read the packet of what the lime you're using, it will guide you. Quite commonly it'll say 2.5 sand to 1. But like I say, we just like keeping it a whole number. But then like I say, I've done some mixes which has been like 4-1. You know what I mean, 5-1. So it all depends on what you're doing, what project you're doing. But like I say, 3-1 is just a nice, strong, you know, consistent mix, and we just like using it. So anyway, that is all our grit in there now. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to add the one ginger. The ginger sand we use is quite thick, so it takes a while to really mix through, and it just gets it in there. And then probably after the ginger, I'll crack on and get the lime in there. So I'll literally do the exactly same like I did with the grit. Fill up my tub, bang it down, keep it flat, exactly the same, but obviously because it's a 3-2-1 mix, we've got our 2 grit in. Now it's time for the 1 ginger. There we go, there's the ginger. You just got to take your time with ginger, because see them lumps there, when it really dries out it does get lumpy, so we just normally use the trowel and just slice through it, try and break it down, because obviously you don't want a load of lumps in there, because then you're going to have a load of air pockets and then you won't have the same measurement. In it goes. Lovely jubbly. So I think we should get some lime in there. So we've got our 2 grit, we've got our 1 ginger, so now we're going to whack in the 2 lime, and then we'll finish with the 3 building sand. So this is the part where you definitely want to be wearing your mask and goggles, etc. Just go really slow with it, because yeah, it is horrible stuff. It lingers. It's like similar to talcum powder, if you know what I mean. It just sort of lingers in the air, and it's just, yeah, horrible stuff really. You know, if you get any on your skin, wash it, do you know what I mean? It's just yeah, it's horrible stuff. Like, so you just got to be careful. Just go slow really, that's all you need to do. Right, anyway, let's whack 2 in. Oh, That's what you want to be careful of. Whack it in and run away. So just for a little bit of dust suppression, I will add a little bit of water. It sort of calms it down a little bit. You've got to really let it mix out. Sometimes it does go into like little balls, but you know, eventually it will just sort of keep going as it mixes, like, and it gets wetter. It will break up. But if you look at it now, it is like sort of consistent. Obviously, if you can wait for it to really mix in, the better, really. Like I say, the drier you can keep it, the better. But really, you only get a really lovely dry mix at the start of the day. Once you've been doing a few mixes, like I said earlier, you know, the mix is already wet. So you just have to sort of really keep it quite dry, basically, at the start, especially when it's mixing. Right, anyway, let's crack on and get another lime in. There's lime number 2. Run! Always make sure your bucket's empty. Lovely job. Just let that mix for a minute. You can see what I mean by the little bit of balls. You're always going to get that if you're making, like I say, more than one mix, because it's just trapping up the moisture in there. They will break down. You just got to really add it slowly, if you know what I mean. Add it slowly, but you can sort of see now it's all coming together. Right, here I'm going to go get me building sand ready. So I've got my 2 grit in there, I've got my 1 ginger, I've got the 2 lime, so all that's left is the 3 building sand. Whack that in, and what I'll do with the building sand is just add 1, add a bit of water, add 1, add a bit of water. The main thing with lime is just do not add loads of water. The more it mixes, it will get wetter, the more it all combines, etc. So just give it time. Like I say, once we finish adding the sand in, we basically set a timer for about 20 minutes and just let that mix, do you know what I mean? And then you can always add water, but it's a lot harder getting rid of the water, because you're either going to have to make another one and let it slightly dry out, do you know what I mean? It's just be patient. 1 bit of water, 2, oh, we got the balls, bit of water, and 3. Look at them balls, they're lovely, aren't they? Right, what we're going to do now is proper add some nice water. Just obviously, it's like anything really. If you've ever made a crumble mix, you know what I mean, when you're rubbing the butter and the flour together, similar sort of thing really. But the good thing about this is obviously all the balls will come to the front. So if you are worried about them, it's going to get a lot wetter than this anyway, just give it time. So you don't have to panic, but you can't just break them up in your hand, you know what I mean? So that's all the sand in now, so literally we'll just add the water slowly. And then the magic will start happening. So what you sort of want at this stage is keep adding the water slowly, just until it starts binding. You'll see the front of it just starting to lump, and what it will do is as it goes around lumping, it will grab from the back, because it's really dry at the back. If you look, it's like stuck right up against it. As you can sort of see now, it's starting to form. Here we go, we're getting somewhere now. So you can see it's starting to drop now, like you can start seeing the back of the mixer. It's a good sign. So I've just left that a couple of minutes just to let that water go in. I've used about 2/3 of my water. So what I'm going to do now is quickly turn it off, because at the back there it's just sticking. So use your trowel. I just use my hand. Get in there and just drag it all forward. Just make sure you've got no clumps. There's the back of the mixer there, but as you can see, well, hey, where the water's come in, you've got a little bit stuck at the back. So if you just stop the mixer, I wouldn't advise doing it whilst the mixer's moving, because I've heard of people sort of dislocating their shoulder and stuff, and because they put a shovel or spade in there and it's just kinked it. But some people bang the side of the mixer with a mallet, but I just like to stop it, get my hands in there, or a trowel, just scrape it all forward and then start it up again, and sort of gets it going around again. So like I say, I'll just leave that a minute. I'm going to keep slowly adding me water. You will get used to the water amounts. So for what I'm using, I know about 3/4 of a bucket of water does do a mix to what sort of, you know, moisture level we want it. We want this quite damp and quite wet and workable, just because A, the weather is hot, and B, this is the only mix I'm probably going to make for the day. So it'll stay a bit workable for longer, basically. I won't have to sort of mix it up to keep it moving, really, because obviously with lime, it can sort of, you know, you can use it the next day, but obviously you want to keep it, you know, you want to keep it damp so it is workable. So yeah, like I say, slowly add my water, because as we've brought that forward, all the dry stuff's come forward and we've created them balls again. Like I say, the good thing about them balls, they do come to the front of the mixer. So yeah, just keep adding the water. Whoa, watch out for splashes when you add. That was close. Probably a little bit too much at once. Like I say, try and add it slowly, but you know, you can just see what I was on about earlier, the way the front just sort of clumps together and then it will slowly drag at the back. There you go, look, you can see little bits coming forward now. That's what you want. So what I'll do, I'll just slowly add this water now to it, let it all bind up, and then once all the water's gone, we'll set a timer for about 20 minutes and then just let that go. Like I say, good thing about this is obviously first thing in the morning, get this knocking up, and then obviously I could be brushing up my pointing I got done yesterday, like, so that's all good. Or you go make a cheeky coffee or a cup of tea, can't you? You know what I mean? Hello, gorgeous. Righty, 20 minutes is up. So, like I said earlier, I've added all the water because, you know, it's we do this pretty much every day. We sort of knew exactly how much water we're going to need for the ratio of sand and lime we're using. Take a chunk. There we go. So it is a bit wetter than we would have it normally in the winter, etc. Just because it is absolutely lovely weather at the minute. So, and like I say, I am on my own, so I'll take about half of this out, leave it in there, and then every sort of hour or so I'll just turn the mixer on, just keep it moving, keep it wet. But like I say, that is absolutely perfect, really. You know, it binds, it's workable. You know what I mean? It is absolutely spot on, really. Like I say, if it was cooler months or a cooler time of year, you'd have it slightly dry, just so, you know, when you do clump it, basically it sticks. Even if you apply pressure, it's, you know, I'm really squeezing there and it's just sort of holding its weight, if you know what I mean. Just but then it's still workable. You know, you can play with it, get it in, and get it into all the grooves. That's another thing for the job we're doing at the minute. There's some really deep holes and some of them really tight, like, so you've really got to work it in. So having it just a bit more workable does get it in. Anyway, let's get you in a barra and let's get you on the wall. Lovely jubbly. Look at that. I've got me damp joints. There we go. Freshly made lime mortar. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. This mix is, you know, slightly wet in the mornings, like, but you know, just keep an eye on it. What we do when the mixes are a bit wet, we'll point and then beat it sooner rather than later. So we'll beat it with a brush. Because sometimes, obviously, when the water dries out, you know, the mortar can shrink. So you just sort of beat it, and then if you get any dips in that, you just carry on pointing. But really, after about an hour or two, especially in this weather, this mortar will be absolutely spot on. But it just saves you keeping it damp, you know. Lovely jubbly. Anyway, let's crack on with today, and let's crack on with this old barn.